Hi everybody, my name is Dennis and welcome back to another album review. Today we're reviewing the latest album from Khalid, entitled Free Spirit. Now, I really enjoyed Khalid's previous album, American Teen. I thought it was a fun, refreshing pop R&B album that showed a lot of potential for the singer-songwriter. And even though he didn't have a whole lot interesting to say, it did have some nice, sweet, wholesome love songs on it that I enjoyed quite a bit. And although I was a bit shaky on some of the singles going into this, I was hoping for something really great. And unfortunately, Khalid plays it far too safe on here for really much of anything interesting to take place. He sticks to a very uniform style of relatively upbeat tones with heavy percussion, almost trap style beats, and the occasional light guitar riff or strumming pattern. And this sound gets pretty repetitive over 17 tracks and over an hour of music. And even though the sound is generally fine, it's not all that irritating, it's not all that abrasive, and it's not all that unpleasant, and I wouldn't even call it generic, because he definitely has his own unique style, his own flow, his own sound to him. It just gets stale over the course of the album, where it just feels like he's repeating himself over and over again with very rarely anything of interest to say. Where we have songs like Intro, Bad Luck, and My Bad, even the song Better, which is the big hit off the album, that all just feature these very similar styles of soft vocals, almost love or longing for love type songs, and a very light trap and upbeat sound that just gets really repetitive, especially over the first 10 or so minutes of the album. It does look up a little bit from here, though. I did quite enjoy the song Talk, which, even though it did follow this pattern to an extent, it did it in a very unique way, where the main backing instrumental to it is very funky, very hard-hitting, very punchy, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I also enjoyed the song Right Back, which had another very fun flow with an interesting sound to it that differentiated itself from many of the other songs on here. I felt that the song Don't Pretend, as well as Paradise and 100, were more boring, forgettable tracks through the album. And I really didn't like the songs Free Spirit and 21, where Free Spirit is very bland, very uninspired, where it even lacks a lot of the key elements that play into the other tracks on the album that I mentioned earlier, where this song goes for just a more very, very simple guitar structure for the main vocals, for the main instrumental, with some really uninspired vocals, and it's just a really boring, unimaginative listen. And I really didn't like the song 21 either, which both the flow of his voice as well as a lot of the instrumental moments and even some of the lyrical content made it just feel like some really bad 5 Seconds of Summer karaoke. That it just felt really forced, really out of place, and really outdated in a lot of ways. Like, if I wanted to listen to 5 Seconds of Summer, I would listen to 5 Seconds of Summer. I wouldn't listen to a mediocre impression of them. It was pretty bad, I thought. I did enjoy the next two songs, though, Bluffin and Self, which, something about them, just the very smooth, sultry, almost sexy beat of the song Bluffin just really caught my attention, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I also liked the tone and the overall sound progression throughout the song Self. And again, even though these songs, as well as pretty much every song before it, really doesn't have all that much to say, it's pretty lackluster lyrically, plays it very safe, he doesn't really take any risks, he doesn't really have anything of meaning to give the audience lyrics-wise, but it's fine overall. I did really enjoy the lyrics on the song Heaven, however, where this song was written by Father John Misty, who I think is an absolutely phenomenal songwriter. He's a really great vocalist, really great instrumentalist, and just a really talented person overall. He's a really great artist in a lot of different facets. And he definitely continues his strengths on the song Heaven, where he grants Khalid this really heartfelt, emotional song about losing someone to what I would assume to be either to death or to something comparable to it, where you are basically never going to see them or never have any other meaningful interaction with them. They might as well be dead. Where he's just begging for heaven to take him away for his own death. And it's this really heartfelt, touching moment that I think is done in a really nice way. I also like the really soft and sad instrumentals that back it, and it was probably one of, if not my favorite song on the album, with probably Talk being a close second. Saturday Nights unfortunately doesn't keep this up. It's a pretty boring cut to the closing to the album that just falls in line with much of the other sounds throughout that make up pretty much every other song on here. So, with all that being said, there's really not a lot to this album. It's very bland, it's not very imaginative, and it plays things very safe, very rarely ever divulging from this formula that Khalid seems to be happy with. And if he's happy with it, that's fine, but it's just really not my thing. I find it overly repetitive and not really all that imaginative nor interesting overall. There were a few solid tracks on there, but it's not really enough to save this album overall. I'm feeling a strong 5 on this. If you check it out, definitely go to those songs that I was recommending earlier. I did think those were really enjoyable cuts off of this. Be sure to tell me what you thought of it, as always. Be sure to tell me how wrong my opinion was, and I'll see you in the next review.